All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening. And thank you for tuning into another live stream panel discussion with Black Ivy Media. My name is Rita Pierre, and I am the founder of Black Ivy Media. And I'm also going to be the moderator of tonight's discussion entitled Black Love Matters. And so a little bit about Black Ivy Media before we move forward, because I know some of you guys might not know who we are or what we do. Black Ivy Media is the voice of the people. And through our content, we seek to inspire, we speak to challenge the status quo, we speak to disrupt social norms, and we also seek to highlight the victories, the pressure points, the histories within the Black and Brown community. And so tonight, our topic is Black Love Matters, and it falls right in line with our mission of raising awareness about social issues and different things throughout our community. So tonight we have an amazing group of individuals who are serving as our panelists on this discussion that will help facilitate and hopefully inspire and motivate some of you guys with respect to this topic. As October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we definitely want to incorporate that theme into tonight's discussion, as we are going to be talking about love and relationships, healthy relationships, and things of that nature. So before I go in and bring forth our lovely, lovely panelists, I do want to remind you guys to follow Black Ivy Media. I'm going to go ahead and post the overlay here. Follow Black Ivy Media on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And check out our website, www.blackivymedia.com. I'm also going to encourage you all to please send in your comments in the chat section. We definitely will be checking it out, and we will reserve some time at the end of this conversation to answer and pose some of your questions. So without further ado, I'm going to present to you all our lovely panelists for this evening. So first, we have the amazing duo here, Jabari and Stephanie Walthour. Hello there, Jabari and Stephanie Walthour. And so Stephanie is a sex, marriage, and family therapist, and she is the owner and operator of the Intimacy Center of Georgia. And we have her lovely husband here, Jabari Walthour, who is a corporate professional for Amazon. Next, we have the amazing V-Star, aka Vladimir Dorjali, who is a financial activist and business owner here in the New York, New Jersey area. He is our single male perspective for this, for tonight's conversation. And then we have the amazing duo, Mrs. New York American Marjorie Vale and her lovely husband, photographer extraordinaire Roman Vale. And so we do have one more individual who will be joining us tonight by the name of Angela N. Holton, who is a dating and relationship expert. She was actually named by Yahoo Finest one of the 10 best relationship experts in 2020. And so she will hopefully be joining us soon. So without further ado, it's interesting, when I brought forth this idea of Black Love Matters, people were just like, what are we talking about here? What does this mean? What is going on? What do you mean Black Love Matters? And as I was posting some of the images of you guys and explaining some of your backgrounds, people had even more questions. Like, what is this going to be? What do we mean? And so I thought it was a really important discussion to have, as we are in this interesting climate, right, of just crazy race tensions, and people are really focusing on race matters, Black, all Black everything, Black love, Black literacy, Black generational wealth. And so a lot of things come to mind when I see this phrase Black love, but I'm really curious as to what are your thoughts when it comes to this phrase Black Love Matters. What does that mean to you? So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to just give your response as to when you hear that, what does that mean for you? So we could start with the duo, Jabari and Stephanie.
Um, for me, um, it just means love. I also wonder if we have not seen enough of positive African American relationships, and that's why we put such a big emphasis on the Black love. But I believe love is love. I don't know if it's purple love, yellow love, red love, what love. It's love, and as a marriage and family therapist, I just believe I can see connections and love. And so I think when it comes to the term of Black love, I think it's just wanting to have more of those positive influences of African Americans that are truly in love, that's truly having a connection and a relationship. So it's kind of my thought.
Okay, Jabari.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, black love is what can make it. I think Stephanie and I fell in love, and then we just happen to be black. uh, so there's certain challenges and things that we go through, but it's not because we're black. But I definitely agree with what she's saying about just craving those images, those positive images of black couples, and black marriages and black families. I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Okay. Now, Marjorie and Roman Vale, what are your thoughts when you hear Black love? Like, what does that mean to you when you hear that phrase?
Sorry.
It's okay.
We're at 2020. Sorry.
I know, right? All day long of pressing these buttons. So, I can't really comment myself on what it's like to be black, obviously, but I love my wife who's black, and I love our son who's mixed, and so he's gonna be identified as black, in his life, and plenty of family and extended family and friends that I've had that are black. So, to me, I agree with what you've said so far, and I think I'm more focused on the love, and yes, black love, because I love my wife who's black, but I'm putting love ahead in the sense for myself personally, because I can't speak on being black.
Okay. Marjorie?
Yeah, I agree with Jabari and Stephanie. I think love is love. For me, when I think of Black love, because I'm in an interracial relationship, I think of myself, self-love, as well as, like my husband said, our child who is biracial and him loving himself. So those two are important. And you're right, Jabari, there's not enough. And even as an interracial couple, I am foreseeing Black couples, just seeing that, because that's what I grew up in a household of two married, a married couple that they were both Black. And so I grew up on Black love per se. And so I want to see more of those images as well. And I think those are important for our children to see.
Okay. Vladimir?
Thank you, first and foremost, Rita, for having me. Thank you guys for sharing your time. And I'm looking forward, certainly, to some gems from the married couples, as I think I may want to enter that institution of marriage. I'm not sure yet. The jury's still out. Black love. I think, with respect to everyone else's opinions and contributions so far, for me, absolutely, we cannot just overlook just love, period, right? But considering in the U.S. and not even just the U.S., I would even say globally, the times that we're in, that it would almost be tone. I feel I would be tone deaf if I didn't make it a point to emphasize the Black and love, because we're in an environment where everything Black. I mean, we're in a society that has made Black synonymous to anything but love, right? We've made Black the color of the villains in everything. I remember distinctly watching a cartoon at my brother's house with his nephew, some probably a year ago or so, whatever the cartoon was, but what was happening there in the episode, the black sheep or the black dog that was being trained, the black dog in a cartoon was the bad one that was being beaten by the police dog. And it was just, and I was like, this is what our society is doing to from very early on. And so I do think when we are faced constantly with micro messaging around what it is to be black, I do think it's important for me to stress and value black, what it is that we talk about when we say black love. And so to me, then that means it starts with the love of self, because again, right, in a society that constantly makes you question your features, that makes you question everything about from your looks to your experiences, what it means to be black, then it's black love. To me, starts with knowing your worth and understanding who you are as a black person first and foremost, and then what that then means in romantic relationships that you then pursue, because they're simply going to be a mere reflection of your values.
Okay. And so we have Angela and Holton, who has actually joined us. I'm going to enter her into the broadcast. Hello, Angela.
Hello. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I literally got off the plane, came and set up, and here I am.
And we appreciate you for doing that, because you could have said no.
When I say yes, consistency is so important in relationships and with myself. So when I say I'm going to do something, I keep integrity of my word.
Yes. Thank you. We had introduced you early on, but you can go ahead and do a little quick introduction if you'd like. Now, we basically went through the first question of, what does this phrase black love mean? We were hearing it so much more, and here we have a great group of individuals from diverse backgrounds. So it's when we hear that, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. Great. Love it. So I'm Angela N. Holton. I am an author, a dating and relationship coach. I created the Conscious Dating Method, which is, as Vladimir was saying, it's really approaching love and relationships from cultivating the relationship with self first. So it's an inside out journey. We can't know or create or manifest love without really feeling empowered and in love with ourselves. So my approach to helping people strengthen their relationships with their partners, future partners, is first and foremost strengthening their relationship with self. So I was able to hear what Vladimir said about Black love, and those were my exact sentiments that I plan to share tonight. We have a barrage of negative images and stereotypes of Black people. And I don't know if that's me making, no, I don't think. So, for me, Black love is this, beautiful ownership of our Blackness and our love, and that we're worthy of love, self-love, and worthy of coupled relationship love, because there's so many negative stereotypes about love not existing in the Black family, about not existing in Black couples. So when we see it, when anyone, for me, particularly Black women, because again, we even have more stereotypes as to whether we will ever find marriage, or a couple relationship, particularly by a certain age. So when I see a Black person, again, particularly a woman who's found love, it's a win. It's like it's a victory for us. It's a winning experience. And I think, as Vladimir was saying, it starts with, we have to love ourselves, because the message out there constantly and daily, and it's insidious, and it can really subconsciously get into our psyche if we don't pay attention to it and know that we are we are worthier and more beautiful than what we're portrayed as on a daily, second, momentary basis. And so it's constantly feeding ourselves with our value and worth individually and in couples. So, everything has been created systematically to tear apart the Black couple, the Black family. But I feel like we're reunifying, and even calling it Black love, like we're giving it a name, we're giving it an experience. And I'm here for it. I believe in multicultural love, but I also believe that when any Black person finds love, it's a win, you know, because so much is stacked against us to believe that we deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with what everybody said. And I really appreciated Roman's response, because I think that a lot of times, you know, some of the rhetoric that I've heard in the past, just amongst, you know, just random individuals, is that, you know, they would love to explore, you know, an interracial relationship, but there's this fear that, you know, is my Blackness going to be accepted? Am I always going to feel like I have to, you know, teach or put on? And, you know, will my spouse understand, you know, my culture, understand who I am, respect it, and also partake in that? So I love the fact, Roman, that you talked about your love for your Black wife and for, you know, your son who is his mix, and the fact that, you know, you have friends and that you're essentially, you know, open to the culture, you're part of the culture. And I think that's really important for people to understand, because I know that that tends to be a fear that I've heard, at least at times. Now, I want to get on to something that you stated, Angela, talking about, you know, negative stereotypes, particularly when it comes to the Black community and this idea of love. I find that there's so much dysfunction associated with Black and love, and it's portrayed in the media, and it's not something that's just perpetrated by Black people, but, you know, even people of other cultures kind of have bought into this dysfunction. And I kind of want to understand, why do we think that is? Where do we think that comes from?
Is that to me first?
Could be to anyone, yeah.
I think it goes back generations, you know. I think it goes back ancestrally. I think that there's a narrative that's still being told about Black families being separated, about, you know, predominantly single Black mothers raising children and having multiple fathers, and Black men not showing up for their Black women and their children. You know, that is just constantly an image that's portrayed. And it's, you know, we see it in film, we see it in music. And so if it's, you know, life imitating art, either way, you know, it's hard for us to recreate a new narrative when that one is just constantly being portrayed about us. So that's why I think Black love is so beautiful, because it's saying, like, you know, we're overcoming all the negative stories and beliefs you've tried to tell us about us. And maybe we've believed that for so long, but it ends here. It stops here. We are proud to be Black. We are proud to experience Black love. And that's why, you know, my platform, especially during these really, you know, racial turmoil and sort of civic unrest that we're experiencing, is that every day Black people more and more need to look in the mirror and say, you are deeply and wonderfully made. You are beautifully made. You are a child of God. You are beautiful. You deserve it. Because it needs to reinforce what we're not hearing. And we may think that those portrayals on TV and our Black men that we see being brutalized and arrested, that's not impacting our psyche. And it is. It can. If we're the most feared and also revered at the same time people on the planet, you know, we can decide which one of those values we're going to believe and live that and own it every day.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's if I may just jump in to echo some of those sentiments just shared by Angela. I think it's completely true. I think the fracturing of Black love that we've witnessed has been systematically in place for over 400 years. Yeah. Right? It did it, and you know, and continued and carried over to even when we look at our welfare laws, even, right? I mean, those things are simply keeping the dysfunction alive, right? And so I think when we do things like this, one of the things I hope for in conversations like these, when we're having them, especially among those of us who either have platforms that can really make an impact, or associated and affiliated with folks who can make such impact, i.e. legislators, politicians, I think we ought to use these conversations like these to see that change that we're looking for. Because, like I said, you know, some of the fracturing of Black love is literally written in our laws. And it's something that's happened from for over 400 years. And so the fact that we're witnessing some of it today is not just by coincidence, right? It's been systematic.
Jabari, Stephanie?
I got a question for you all. Just how do we rid society of the perceptions of this dysfunction? Because for me, I put it back on Black men, right? I feel that, hey guys, if we step up to the plate, Black men create better Black marriages, Black men create better Black families, which ultimately leads to a better Black race, right? So I definitely put the ball in our court to say, hey, let's step up to the plate. Let's start, respecting our women more. Let's start honoring our women more, and just being there.
I agree. Thank you, Jabari. You know, the conversation or the language that's often spoken about Black women from Black men, it's just unacceptable. You know, I think Black women feel unprotected, disrespected by Black men. I mean, I had an encounter last week with a Black man that it hurt. And I thought at first initially, you know, we were I was in a car and he was in a car, and I thought initially maybe he didn't know. He shouldn't have done it anyway. He was extremely close in tailgating. Shouldn't do that to anyone. But then I thought when he saw it was two women in the car that maybe he would back off. But then when he saw it was a Black woman and he still didn't back off, I was just like, just mortified. It hurt. It literally hurt. And we went into the same grocery store. And there was a part of me that wanted to confront him in Whole Foods. But then I'm like, you know, we don't need to be two Black people standing out in this suburbia, you know, Whole Foods and causing a scene. I would not have caused a scene, but I don't know this gentleman, so he could have escalated to a scene. And then, you know, we know what could happen, the aftermath of that. You know, police show up, and I would never want to do that to one of my fellow brothers or anyone. But I agree with you, Jabari. You know, better men, Black men make better husbands, better fathers, raise better Black children, and make us all better. And I think Black men, in spite of the disparaging, you know, constant beration and degradation that men receive. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be a Black man every day in America. I can't. You have to overcome it. You have to not believe it. You have to choose differently. You have to look at yourself, you know, and it may sound trite or cliche, but I'm a good man. I'm a good, beautiful Black man. I'm a child of God, and I'm going to do differently than my father and my grandfather. And I do. I believe the onus is on men, Black men. I really do. Because Black women are much more loyal to Black men than Black men are loyal to. I mean, I coach
with. That shifted me in my seat, boy.
Women are largely my clients, and I have a lot of Black female clients who are single in their 40s, but they're still holding out for a Black man.
For hope.
For hope, in spite of the fact that Black man may have moved on, maybe dating outside his race, or is not giving sister any attention, regardless of the reason, she is loyal. She hasn't even considered. And I try, and you know, and honestly, in my platform, I love Black love. I want Black love for myself. But however, am I going to deprive myself of love if a Black man does not step up to this? I will not. And it would be unfair if I'm seen as a sold out or, you know, betraying Black men. I've dated nothing but Black men my whole life, and I grew up in Colorado where it's predominantly white. I have found Black men wherever I go. I lived in Italy for 3 months. I found the most attractive African man in Florence. So I'm attracted to and what I love, but, you know, where's that Black man stepping up and owning a Black woman? And I still think that Black women you have to be open. You know, at the same time, I'm a proponent and I love Black love. I love love. And if you find a Roman in your life, another person that looks differently than you, that loves you, I'm there for it. And you shouldn't spend your whole life, because statistically, even if every Black man was available for a Black woman, there's still not enough statistically. So women have to date outside of their race if they want to be in a relationship, or class, race, whatever it is. But You got to be open.
Now, Roman, I do have a question for you. Again, we're talking about just the way that Black people and love are just portrayed as this dysfunctional thing in society. As somebody who is white, who has, a Black wife, like when you see these things or you hear this rhetoric, like how does that make you feel as an individual who is out here? You have a Black family, and you're seeing these things and you're hearing these things being played out in the media and just in general society. Like, what is your perspective on that?
I mean, it just strikes a discord of decency, indecency. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. I mean, there's what I thought before. We were married, and now we're together 18 years. Wow. So known each other 20
Congratulations.
Years. Thank you. So it's a different appreciation for what the media, how they spin things, and the things that I see. But personally, I just, I mean, it's horrible. Like mm-hmm. I don't equate what I see out there with what my personal experience is. But mm-hmm. I mean, it's difficult for me to, I have conversations with our son all the time about what it's gonna, like I have to have the talk, like with him, mm-hmm. what it might be like for him, but not for me, mm-hmm. And that's like a very tough place to be. But because I've been like the fly on the wall sometimes early in our relationship, when I'm getting used mm-hmm. to the family and everybody, and now being more engaged with the family, I'm there for conversations like the quote unquote barbershop conversation, but I'm like the white guy there. Mm-hmm. I mean, so we're cool. It's like we're talking and asking for my input, not specifically because I'm white, but just because they know me. I'm Roman. I've known them since they were 11, or I've known them since they were 20. And, now we're in our mid 40s. So it's different, Mm-hmm. So for me, it's just, I mean, it's hard. It's disheartening. It's, distasteful how they portray love between Black people, because that's not my experience. I love Marjorie for who she is, and she happens to be Black, and so what, so that's kind of like my attitude towards it. But, Marjorie will tell you, I'm watching the news, I'm watching the show, and something happens. It's like, oh man, that was tough. A little tear comes, like you get choked up a little bit sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, and she knows me from my rants. I'll go off for, she's like, can you believe this? And it's like the news and this and that. She's like, babe, you got to stop watching the news so much. Yeah. So there's a lot there. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place with this answer. But
no. It's a very
have the red pen up. If I could just ask a quick question or add something really quickly, I know I don't want to hog the section. To go back to the question of, what do we do and how do we combat this this narrative of dysfunction? I think one of the very first ways we can, first of all, I appreciate Jabari's comment in terms of asking men to step up. I personally believe in that level of ownership, right? So as one Black man that I am, I think about what is it that I can do better to contribute to a better narrative, right? Now, does it mean I'm perfect? Not at all, far from it, but I'm conscious of that. So I appreciate that comment. And what I will say, on the other hand, is, or maybe in addition to that, is we have to be the ones then to also be very careful and not feed into it and not perpetuate that narrative, right? I honestly, usually, right, when a question like this comes up, one of the very first things I do is obviously I think it's a great one for what we're talking about. But outside of this, I definitely don't feed any life into it, because the reality is there are a lot more successful, thriving Black relationships than there aren't, right? And so the fact that, and I'm not using the word marriage specifically here, relationship. And so if we pay attention to that, and if we continue to celebrate those every chance we get. That's how we, or at least that's one way I think we can combat it, is just literally not breathe the life into it. Because the propaganda around what makes it successful is just keeping the narrative going that there's dysfunction. What if we flip that switch? No, and highlight that there's a lot more positivity around it than we're being told. I think that that is something that's very much in our control individually, and then not do the pinning of black men against black women thing.
Oh,
Um, I don't stand the black guys I see on social media who do the constant black man bashing. And nor do I support them who do the black women bashing. you know, and same the other way around. So I think that's one thing um, individually we all can take ownership of.
yeah. Can I add to that? I just,
Sure.
I love that, Vladimir, and I just wanted to add, whatever we focus on expands. So if we focus on the new narrative, we focus on the beautiful, positive relationships that are out there and use as an example, our thought consciousness will move in that direction. But if we're focusing on the negative narrative, either consciously or unconsciously, it will constantly replay itself and we will constantly see it. So to dispel that narrative and that belief is to A, make it conscious, and B, pivot and sort of move our consciousness and our thoughts and our vision to the success we want to see. Right. And, the other part too is we have to acknowledge that we're mere reflections of one another. And that in order for black men to start respecting black women more, they have to respect themselves more. Period. You can't dishonor someone unless you're dishonoring yourself. You would treat someone the way you would treat yourself. So if we can get black men to acknowledge that it's not bravado and it's a toxic masculine to think that treating women a certain way is actually the definition of manhood, when the opposite of that is it's riddled in insecurity. It's riddled in self-doubt and fear. Black men have fear. We all do, but it's acknowledging that and not projecting that fear onto relationships and black women, because that, when we become the stereotype, we are absorbing and living the fear that society is projecting onto us. Like, well, they think we're going to do this. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They believe this about us.
Right.
We're going to do this, and we do it.
Do you think we can get women to expand their viewer expectation of what it means to be I don't want to say a strong black man. Well, yeah, I'm going to use that, a strong black man as well, because and of course this is not to cast the general statement onto, because I know better, right? I know better, but man, how many? I wish I saved the screenshot. I literally saw it on a dating app recently, and multiple platforms where the phrase of women asking to be put in their place, asking for a man who can literally put them in their place. That's something that's very important that they're looking for. They can't take, and obviously it just makes me sad, because I'm like, wow, unfortunately, clearly some of these sisters who've echoed those words haven't seen a real example of what a real man is, right? To think that a man is a man that's constantly putting you in your place is what makes a man. That, I think, is part of the dysfunction of the sisters who do receive differently and loving black men, but reject it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think in what I coach women, I try to change the narrative in my conversation with my clients. Black women in general, but since this is about black love, black women want strong black male leaders, strong black male partners. However, in saying that, many women don't even know what that is themselves. They don't know a strong black man, if they saw one coming, or would they be able to acquiesce in that role of allowing that man to be the leader. And historically in the culture, black women, a lot, not all, I don't want to make any sweeping generalizations, but there's a high number of single black mothers who raise their children. I come from a very strong matriarchal family of women that are divorced. So I've learned to be superly independent. And so acknowledging that I need a man or want a man is something that really took practice for me to actually say that and admit that vulnerability, because unconsciously, my narrative in my family was, you'll do fine without one. So Black women may want a strong leader, but they have to recognize him when he shows up, and not push him down when he shows up, and allow him to be the leader that she's saying she wants him to be. Mm-hmm. And that's by her stepping into her feminine role, which is hard because now more than ever in a modern world, women, all women, we're working in more masculine type roles, right? Or when I say masculine, I mean masculine energy. And so we have, especially as entrepreneurs, you know, when we're in those positions of leadership, lawyers, attorneys, accountants, where we're making decisions all day, it's challenging for us to go back into our dating world, our relationship space, and allow someone else to make decisions for us. Mm-hmm. So if Black women can also themselves learn to tap into their feminine bodies and their feminine energy, because they say they want a masculine male, but if they're showing up as a masculine woman, they're not going to attract that masculine male or have confidence in that masculine male. So the Black female also has to find her feminine essence again and allow that Black man to be that strong Black man and receive it. And when you're at work, be your boss, badass, whatever you do at work. But when you come home, allow your leader. And I just want to add one other thing to that. What women want in that leader is someone who's compassionate. We want a compassionate, thoughtful leader. And when we have that thoughtful, compassionate leader, we're believing and trusting that this individual, this man, is going to make decisions that are based on the good of this couple, of this community, of this relationship, not just for himself. So when he starts to make those selfish decisions, that's when we start to mistrust. That's when we start to against one another because we don't trust your decisions, or we know that they're not really considered of us. So Black men, if they could be conscious, thoughtful, compassionate leaders, and women embody their divine feminine essence, we could do better in relationships.
I think that's
that's me taking notes right here, Angela. I don't know if you see that. That's me taking notes.
I definitely think I definitely think Vladimir should connect with Angela offline and definitely I feel like you're like absorbing everything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's a practice. I don't want to hog it. It's a practice. We all have to be willing to learn. We all have to be willing to acknowledge what's being the negative narratives and be willing to change them. Because if we don't make it conscious, we'll walk right into that narrative and not know how we got there.
Yeah, and in the 5 seconds, I just want to say thank you, Angela, for that comment, because my next follow-up, I wasn't going to ask it, I was thinking it was, well, can you define that leadership? And I'm glad you did, because we fail to recognize that leadership shows up. There's not just one definition of leadership, and there are different leadership styles. And I love the fact that the key there was compassionate, thoughtful leadership, which can show up differently based on the individual.
Yeah, I think it gets mischaracterized as being put in your place. But what she's really trying to say is she has a desire to be led. You know, there are definitely certain situations where a woman is going to look to that man to say, hey, how are we going to get out of here? You know, there's a tornado coming this way. What are we about to do? You know, there's an intruder coming in this house. Are you going to protect us? Like, she's constantly seeking that guidance. And so, you know, a lot of times it just gets mischaracterized as, hey, I want to be put in my place. You know, she really wants to.
I was going to say that I feel like, Angela, what you said is true for any marriage.
Yeah, it is.
You know, not specifically just for, I mean, definitely for the, you know, Black love narrative, but also for any marriage. Like,
absolutely.
You know, 18 years is not 18 days. And I'm not a strong Black woman. I was raised by a strong Black woman, you know, and so there's a lot of in me that I had to kind of, I wouldn't say compromise, but in essence, I had to think about, like, if who I am is going to help this marriage work, what in me do I need to kind of work out? Like, what of my history do I need to work out so I can make this work? And I think that's for any relationship to last long. You have to do self-work in order to make it work. You know what I'm saying? So it's a word not only for Black love, Angela, but your word is for anyone.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and I was telling Rita, my clients, you know, from all backgrounds, from all over the world. But since this is a platform talking about Black love, I was just, you know, being specific to that. But you know, I'm learning a lot in my personal life as well as in my professional life, because I'm making it my business to study what it means to be feminine. And what of this essence has been lost in this patriarchal world that we live in. We're not even encouraged to be feminine.
Right.
You know, so and that's why black, white doesn't matter. We're pitted against one another because we're both trying to show up with our chest out, both trying to be men. But really, it's exhausting. It's not only is it exhausting, it is anatomically and physiologically the opposite of how a woman is designed. She is not designed to be, and when I say leadership, I mean leadership is a testosterone driven mind is capacity role. A woman, when she's trying to be a leader and make a decision and she's in her masculine energy, that's why she gets stressed out, and then she starts arguing with her partner because her estrogen level, which should naturally be higher, is lower, and she's having more testosterone. So we start to feel stressed. We take that. There's science to this. There's science to how to understand our estrogen and testosterone in relationship. And I'm like, if I can encourage you, and I'm not getting any endorsement here, is to read the book, not just my book, but read John Gray's book, the one who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He wrote a new one called Beyond Mars and Venus. And he really breaks down the science of relationship, how men are supposed to show up based on their anatomy and how women are supposed to show up based on their anatomy, that you can't change. Doesn't matter what your orientation is. If you're born a woman and a man, like there's just certain science behind that. And if we understand that science, we improve our relationships. It really is science.
I want to now move on to focus on the married couples, because I had been getting some questions specifically for our two married couples here. And as we're talking about leadership and women and men, and it seems like we're talking about roles even, I kind of want to get into this discussion of how important are gender roles, in a relationship. So I want to start with Jabari and Stephanie. You know, how important are gender roles in your relationship?
I think they're extremely important. There are just certain things, you know, we used to get into it about ourselves. Now we clearly understand that there are certain things that are designed for the male to do. And there are certain things that are designed for the woman to do. There's certain inclinations that it goes back to what Angela was saying about how we're designed. There's certain things that we have the instinct for. I try to get my wife out in the yard to do some yard work with me. She's not really so inclined, but rearing these kids, nurturing them, getting them everything they need. That's a natural instinct of a woman, to be a nurturer. So yeah, I definitely think there are some clearly defined roles here.
I think there are roles. I don't know if I necessarily go to the gender part of it, necessarily, because they're just roles in our home, and things that have to be done. There are things that he is good at and things that I am good at. That doesn't necessarily mean our gender.
So you're gender neutral?
Yes, I am. Also, I think the biggest piece is being that extra helpmate. Yes, I'm taking care of the children, but I'm also running a practice here and on calls to 6 and 7 o'clock at night. And so if he needs to do Taco Tuesday, which you just did, and, get the kids to bed after baseball, and, we can naturally jump to that. You're absolutely right. I am going nowhere near that lawn. Like, that's just not my thing. And I'm not touching the trash. But there are some places that I can kind of jump in and help in what may be that male role. But I do, Jabari would say it often, like, you are the president of this, and I'm your vice president, so I'm going to come behind you. What BJ needs for school and what class he's in at homeschool right now, and what stage Stefan's in potty training. I'm just supporting you in that. Same way with finances. Like, I'm not gonna come and say, let me pay the mortgage this month. Nah, you got that. But I'm gonna pass my little bit of money over here. You know, on that.
Groceries and stuff.
Yeah. But so I think it's more of being the president and the vice president of certain things, just whatever the roles are in our home, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But they traditionally fall.
I see you, Jabari.
We have a child knocking on the door right now. Excuse
That's
me.
how God designed it.
What about you, Marjorie and Roman? How, do gender roles play a role in your house?
Well, I was gonna say, and Roman, you can jump in afterwards. I feel like the only thing that's gender specific in our relationship is I think Roman takes his role as the protector very seriously, for us, for me and our son. But after that, it can be fair game for a lot of things. So, for example, like, he's the cook. I clean some mean dishes. I'll clean the dishes. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So he takes on that role. So I was the nurturer of our son for like many, many years. And then at some point it was just like, you got this, you know what I mean? I'll do the loving here and there, but you're training him to how does he treat a woman? How does he, things of those nature. So there are a lot of things that I feel like are not gender specific. But his role as a protector, he takes very, very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that, and but a lot of what Marjorie highlighted is that we're affinity focused. Like the things that we have an affinity for, things that we're strong in. We're going to naturally lead in those ways. Anything technical, it's coming my way. Anything like brute strength, lifting, doing something, it's coming my way. Everything else, there are certain things obviously that just are more akin to one of us, and we help each other out. I think the main thing for us is to be helpful and to be able to serve each other and those around us. So however that happens, it could be weeks, even months, where one of us will be driven in one capacity. That's it. We're doing this, and and then the next month it might flip. So. It really just depends. Do I want to go move the car in the rain and go, with my backpack and the groceries and like the whole thing like I did yesterday? No. But, so it had to happen.
But he had a photo shoot on Sunday, right? Or Sunday, and he wouldn't have time to eat. So what did I do? I said, I'm going to take our son. We're going to go get you breakfast, get yourself ready, and then... So it's like, and I came back and I got him breakfast, I got him coffee, came back, dropped him off. So it's like it's a give and take, you know what I mean? And I know that he would do the same for me.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, I do want to ask this follow-up question that was highly anticipated by by many of my friends in my chat group. It's this conversation about submission, right? I know women, a lot of times they don't like to hear it. Men are usually afraid to even bring it up. But so it's said that in order for a relationship to be truly successful, there has to be a leader. Like there has to be a head, right? And so this idea of the woman, I guess, is the one who has to be, I guess, the meeker of the two in order for a relationship to truly be successful. Do you find that to be true? Like, what does submission really look like in a marriage? Because I think that there's just, that word has just had so much weight. There's a lot of negativity is attached to it, and women want to know. What is that? And is there really room for that? Is that really a requirement for in a relationship in order for it to be successful? Does there have to be a clearly drawn out leader? I see Jabari was shaking his head a lot. He was taken aback. I want to start with you.
No, I'm gonna shoot the step. This is like a huge principle practice.
One of my favorite speakers, Pastor Andy Stanley, he always talks about being in a competition for submission. You should be in a competition, and we're very competitive, but we should constantly be in this competition to submit to one another, and to race to the back of the line. He talks about racing to the back of the line for your partner. So if we get into this beautiful cycle of he's submitting to me, I'm submitting to him, I'm racing to the back of the line, he's racing to the back of the line. I don't know what this is head, per se. And if it is, I'll give you that. But guess what? When we get in that competition again, he's gonna say, well, no, you're the head of this, and no, you're the head of this. And it becomes this beautiful cycle. I think the thing with that is that you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. And you also have to be willing to trust your partner that when I am giving you this leeway, when I am submitting to you right now in this moment, that you're going to meet those needs of mine as well. And so it's a beautiful cycle. It took us a while to get into it, but we did. And I think it's a beautiful thing. But I think submission is just a competition. I am constantly submitting to you as well as you're constantly submitting to me.
It's not one-sided.
That was so well said.
They're a monster.
Yeah.
Why get married if there needs to be one head? So I kind of consider us a brain trust. Like we think together, we mind meld, we try to figure out, tag team decisions. And so, it just helps, and it works like that. Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and some days I'm Michael, some days she's Michael. It depends.
What about you, Marjorie and Roman?
Well, I was gonna say, depends what your specialty is or what you're great at. So, for instance, if we go to a parent-teacher conference, I'm an educator. Like there are times that Roman went without me, and he wouldn't. And they would ask him to make a decision about something. He wouldn't. Why? Because I'm the one who knows more about education. I'm the one that has I'm well versed in the things about education. And so he's like, okay, wait. So it may sound crazy to the teachers, like, I need to talk to my wife, but no, it's, you know what I'm saying? He knows that I know a little bit more about this. And so let's talk about it and figure out an answer. You know what I mean? So if I submit to him and he has no clue, or he makes the decision without me, where would that lead us? You know what I mean? And the same thing for me. I feel like Roman, he is someone who is, he really thinks, like I'm very rash. I can be very rash. And Roman, and so that's why before I do anything that demands an answer, I will ask him, because I know he's not a rash person. And so I submit to that. I submit to the fact that he knows that he'll think about it. He's like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Whenever I do anything that I'm like hyper about and I don't talk to him, goes wrong. So I would defer to him. So it depends what we're strong at, right? You submit. What he knows is what he knows, and I would be stupid not to go to the person who is strong in that area to ask him, what do you think? Let's talk about it. Let's decide together.
Yeah, and the thing is that knowing what someone is strong in, you don't get that. You have to have an experience together, and you don't just do that. 1 month, 6 months, you're being together. We all know that it takes a little while to kind of really get somewhere. It took me 10 years to realize I'm not in a direct competition with Marjorie. You know what I mean? But really, we're actually doing things together to help us.
Right.
And so to know, like we live our lives together, celebrate our marriage, and know that we figure out what we enjoy doing and what we're good at, and we continue to do those things and expand that. So when he tells me something, and I love Stephanie's point about trust, Jabari and Stephanie's point about trust, because it was that's the main thing. Like she just has to tell me sometimes more than once, but I get it eventually. As a stubborn guy sometimes, but when she tells me something, I have to trust her that this is coming from a place of experience. This is coming from a place of wisdom and love, and she's super patient with me, and just make sure that I have certain buttons. She knows them now. She doesn't. She avoids those. She gets the message across, and then I'm able to, react. I'm able to decide. I'm able to, protect and all those other things that I'm made for.
Yeah, and trust. It took a while to, like you said, Stephanie, trusting that what this person is saying is coming from a place of love, right? That's the foundation of it all. So majority of the time there are fights because I feel like deep down you don't really believe that this person loves you, and so I don't believe you love me. Why should I trust you? And so there's a trust for years upon years upon years. But when I surrender and I realize, okay, this person loves me, I can talk to them about how they speak to me. Maybe that needs to change, But if I trust that the person loves me, then yes, it can work well.
And it's not always about being right.
Right.
It's about knowing to respect and trust that this person's going to get their best effort for you, and you may not know. You have to be humble. You have to acknowledge that I just may not know this. I mean, I've had experience in this, and, but the more you talk, I guess that's the thing that we're always working on, is just being able to express our feelings to each other. The more I know, is the more that she knows, and vice versa. And so then we're able to make good decisions. But if we don't do that, then it just takes longer.
Okay. And so, Angela, I want to kind of turn this back to you a little bit, because I think we got so many good gems from the married couples, right? We talked about this big topic of submission, and we were able to break it down to a point where I was like, I'm sold. I'm sold by both of by their definitions. I'm like, wow, I've never heard that perspective before. And now I feel a little better about this idea of being submissive in a relationship, right? So I want to ask you though, since you are a dating and relationship expert, what are some of the, I guess, common ingredients, right, to making a successful relationship? And then I would say alternatively, what have you seen in terms of ingredients that have led to destructive, horrible relationship?
Yeah. I mean, the key to any healthy relationship, starting with the relationship with yourself, is self-awareness. Self-awareness. And when you are fully aware of yourself and your past wounds, your triggers, your emotional blocks, etc., you are aware of what you're bringing to your relationship, and you're not projecting your past onto your partner. That is what makes a bad relationship, unhealthy relationship. And one that makes a good one is when each individual in the partnership owns their stuff and works through healing their own stuff. And when you come together as a couple, you don't deliberately pull the Band-Aid off that wound. You help nurture and heal that wound together. It's not about your wound and my wound. Your wounds become one wound, and your marriage and your coupleness is in service to God. It's in service for something greater. So it's not, well, you need to do this to make the relationship better, and you need to do that. No, together you work on each other's wounds. And when you're in a healthy relationship, you understand that, and you help your partner thrive and grow, not berate and put them down. There's also what I call conscious communication, which is not just about talking. It's about communicating with intention, clarity, listening intently, and both parties walking away with mutual understanding. It's important to ask, I will say, can you repeat what repeat, how did you hear what I said? And it's important for the person delivering that they also have the emotional intelligence and emotional regulation to compose their feelings in a way that are conveyed. So you want someone in a partnership that's not projecting their stuff. You want someone who's willing to consciously communicate. You want someone who's willing to forgive. Forgiveness, if you can't forgive your partner on a day-to-day basis. And so for singles too, forgive yourself daily. Forgive yourself daily for whatever you did yesterday or this morning or didn't do. Forgive your partner for what they did or did not do. Forgiveness, as it's scripture written, it's, in every biblical or religious instrument, the power of love is really in the root of forgiveness. and forgiveness is rooted in compassion. So can you see yourself in your partner every day? That's the challenge, right? Like, it's not him or her or you. It's like, this is us, and I see me and you, and together we're going to work on that. So forgiveness is key. Compassion, again, that's also in the same thing as how you speak and love and relate to your partner. Empathy and playfulness. Right? You know, like, I don't know if the couples here have children, but, you know, children can take a lot of energy from a partnership, and couples have to find that time and space to connect. You know, I met a couple who had been married 25 years, and you would have thought they met the week before. I said, okay, you two look like lovebirds. I said, how have you done it? She says, you know, it's easier said than done. She said, but I put my husband before my children. And he said, I put my wife before my children. And we explain to our children that if mommy and daddy don't put each other first, there will be no us. Yeah. This is what makes us work and us happy. And that stayed with me. I heard, that was about 10 years ago. So it's not selfish to put in, and I'm not a mother, but I know that's often a tough decision. Yeah. Children before your partner, but really it's kind of like self-love starts here, right? The more you love yourself, the more love you have to flow outward. You love with your partner, you and your partner create a strong foundation of marriage together. Look how much more love you have to feed your children and rearing them, right? And both filling each other's cup rather than, you didn't do this for the kids and you didn't, like, filling each other up. And the more the partners fill each other up, guess what? They have that cup to fill for their children. So for what not to do, just do the opposite of what I said.
Oh man, thank you so much, Angela. I know you have to leave. And again, I thank you so much. Angela traveled from the West Coast. She just landed and she made time to be on here tonight. So thank you so much for tuning in.
I was kind of worrying that I couldn't connect. I love meeting all of you and hearing your stories, and hopefully, Rita, you can bring us together again.
Yes, definitely.
Good luck to you singles. Good luck to you married, and you know, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Angela. Bye. And so, V-Star. I know Vladimir personally, and so once I know a nickname of someone, it's over. Your real name never exists. So I want you to talk a little bit about what dating in 2020 looks like, as you are our resident single male on this talk tonight.
Ooh, let me see, how much time do we have left? No.
Only a few minutes.
It's 2020 is definitely interesting already, because 2020 just came to play no games. It just became something different, considering, you know, pandemic, which has affected every area of life, including dating, obviously, right? And so for me, it's been interesting because so for the first half of the better part of the first half of the year, I was actually in a relationship that was dissolved. I want to say a few months ago, and you know, took some time to kind of heal or just breathe a little bit, and I got back into the dating scene, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting because so I'm in my mid 30s. I'm 35. I can say that, and
say it proud.
Just right? Yes, probably, absolutely. And I can say, and so I'll, just for context, for my personal experience we're talking about here, I'll share with, you know, you guys in the audience, everybody listening. I was previously engaged. I was engaged at one point. So I was about to make that step, didn't go through with it. And, you know, I've been dating in relationships since. 2020 is definitely interesting because as a man who's in my mid 30s, who's had the experience of being engaged and getting close to marriage, I'm definitely clearer today on what I want in a relationship, what I want in a mate and a partner. And I also was under the impression that a lot of the women in my age range are a lot more clear on that as well. Dating in the past few months for me has shown me a little bit different. It's shown me a lot of women in their mid-30s who, quite frankly, I still want to play, and I can understand some of it. Maybe they just want to keep all their options open. I get that, but I'm finding that I'm a little bit more resolved on what I want, and knowing that it doesn't need to take me too long anymore for it. But the dating pool is showing a little bit different.
Interesting. I want to get your take, Stephanie, because you are a therapist. You're a sex therapist, family therapist, marriage therapist. So this is your world in a sense, right? I kind of want to get your take on what are some of these challenges that singles face out here, and do you think that 2020 presents itself even more of a challenge because we're in a pandemic and all this, with everything else going on?
I'll start at the end. I definitely think 2020 is just, she is just, whew.
Let's not call her a she. Let's call her.
That is correct.
Listen, y'all, she came to let us know her name.
Okay.
Never forget her. She came with a vision. So just in everything, it is just hard, mentally, physically, emotionally, relationships, single, married, kids. It's just a lot. So I definitely think that's playing a big part in singles meeting people. And so you want to be safe. So we can't go and do the normal things that we would normally do right now. That kind of takes that out. So that's hard. As far as the first question of what are some things that I am seeing with some of my clients when it comes to singles and meeting people, I think expectations. And so we kind of had, especially if I can say with V-Star as a 35-year-old, you kind of typically we kind of have our life together, have our profession, we kind of know how we like to do things. We've seen a lot of couples that have gotten married and have children and, all of this kind of stuff. And so we have this expectation of what it's supposed to look like. And I think a lot of people go into relationships right now thinking that and getting their feelings hurt. And so that's one of the things that I first say is just kind of take those expectations of what you think is going to look like, and just go and be free. Have fun. Is it fun? Is it enjoyable? Are you enjoying this person? Are they meeting some of these needs of yours? But let's take what your mom and dad look like. Let's take that off the table. Let's take what your best friend look like. Let's take that off the table. What do you and this person look like right now in this moment? Are you being present? Are you being mindful? Are you enjoying this? And I think sometimes if you can kind of take some of that off, that has been helping.
Okay. I also want to ask Stephanie, since I have you. We hear so much about, men, women, women feel like they have it harder. Men feel like they have it harder. You have Vlad who just, said that, listen, I'm out here looking. And I'm finding that women are single, ready to mingle and dipping in, many ponds and are just kind of, doing them, which is usually not, I guess, what's expected of a woman who is in her maybe mid-30s, early 40s, right? What do you think is, I guess, the reason for this? Has this always been the case, or have we seen a shift where women are feeling more I guess free and more, I guess, I don't know, more in tune with or content maybe with just being out there?
I was going to ask the question and throw it back to you guys. Where did this definition come from that women are not still kind of liberated and playing around at 35? We don't know that. It has,
yeah, that's true.
It told us that guys have always been the players and don't want to get married, and how do we know that women haven't? And so I think we may have a culture where everything is in our face a little bit more and we're experiencing it in our face, but who's to say that has not always been this population of women that's okay. I feel liberated and I don't necessarily have to be tied down to one person. So that's just
So Vlad, you might be dipping in that population pool.
I've definitely thought about that as well. And of course, again, right, I can't speak for other people. I just know for me, it's interesting because when I was of that, like me in that mindset, I don't know if it's the business side of me where you go into, you have an objective, and you work backwards. Going with the flow for me has always meant, oh, okay, we're playing. I can play. So if that's what you want to do, sis, that's what you want to do. All right, we'll play. But once that's my mindset, it's not. We're not going to go from playing to you wanting me to take you serious.
Okay.
I can understand that. I think it just depends on the person that you're meeting, because I have a lot of girlfriends right now that's single, mingling and looking for that person, but they're like you, like, I can't find anyone that's serious. And to me, that is that, okay, well, are you enjoying the time? What are you getting out of this? And then you have some that's just absolutely, I don't want to get married. I don't want to be in a serious relationship. So I think it's just what population or what cookie jar are you digging in? And you're right. You don't want to be in cookie jar A with the people that want to mingle and single forever. You want to be in cookie jar B, but you find somebody and you're like, but hey, I really want to try this out. And you don't want to miss those opportunities. So that's why I say the kind of take those expectations off and just allow it to flow the way that it does, so we can figure out which cookie jar are we in right now.
Okay. So, Roman, I actually want to ask you a question. I know Marjorie has disappeared. She left you here to answer all the questions.
He's less rash. He's less rash.
So we're talking about challenges. I'm going to stay on that topic a little bit. Challenges and dating and in relationships and whatnot. And, it's hard out here for us singles. I got to throw myself in that ring too. But for you, when you were dating, particularly when you were dating Marjorie, I want to talk about the challenges that you may or may not have faced being somebody who's white, dating, a Black girl in Brooklyn, in our community. Like, what are some of the challenges you may or may not face? I know there's regular challenges in a relationship, but were there anything, like, were they amplified because of the race?
I think there was a time where there was just like a few isolated incidents of, picture like a nice little Queens neighborhood, the kind with the little houses and the park and the trees, the sunshine coming through, and then the little boys are on their little bikes coming by, 4 or 5 of them, and then they pass them by, and then it's like, oh, this is like a nice little poetic moment. But then they turn around and it's like, ooh, black and white's not supposed to mix, and then they like went away. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what can I do? Little kids. Other couple of times it was, the guys at the train station that were like selling the oils, assimilation, how could you do it? Nothing direct like to us. And we've been, I guess, fortunate or just without incident of anybody really stepping to us directly to our, or anything like that. I'm sure there were little looks and things like that on both sides, from white women to Marjorie, from black men to me. But honestly, we were just kind of focused on each other. And I kind of, maybe it's been too long, but I just haven't paid attention to it. And so that there weren't any like real challenges at times. Like when, even with our families, there wasn't that much of a challenge, because I wasn't born here. So it's like when we came here, I was a little kid, and I was raised here. I went to elementary school here and so forth and so on. But we didn't have anybody of African descent like in our country. So, and it was this is Latvia, so this is by the Baltic Sea. And, so there's nobody, So there were a couple of students, maybe, So it was more a curiosity. So when I took Marjorie to visit my homeland, early in our marriage, people were staring at her. She had the braids, and it was long, it was beautiful. But it was more like National Geographic type of like one, and not any of the stuff that's here in the US. None of that was pushed on to us there. It was more like, oh, how interesting. And some people came up, they tried to touch her hair and stuff like that, and it could be kind of like disrespectful if it happened here, but the sense there was it was just an honest curiosity. So we'd never really had an issue like that. Plus, she'll stand her ground and I'll stand my ground if anything ever happens. So it's maybe we just give off that vibe, not here to be a victim. So
if I may ask, to whom was it National Geographic?
What's that?
If I may ask, to whom was it National Geographic?
Oh, to the Latvians. It was like just like seeing an interesting culture, an interesting look on people that you've never seen before. Like people that have never been to.
Hopefully, none of them made that comment, right?
No.
It was just a characterization, Vlad. It's just a characterization.
It was more like just like a wonder. Is my point. That it was non-aggressive and more like a wonder.
Yeah. I understand. So I know we are wrapping up, and I did have a couple questions that did come in from the audience. And this one is directed toward the married couples. And so Jabari, Stephanie, and one half of the Roman and Marjorie duo. So one of the questions came in as, what is something you wished you had discussed during your dating phase that ended up an issue in your marriage?
Girl, you can't ask them questions live. Our family watching.
Yeah, it's always family. You don't ever think about the family aspect when you're when you're courting somebody. You don't think about that. Like, like, hey, that's her family. That's his family. And you don't even think about it from the aspect of their upbringing, right? So, like, right now we're parenting, two boys, but constantly what comes, as a clashing moment is how I was raised and how she was raised. So you do that stuff when y'all going out to Chick-fil-A and getting ice cream together. Like, that's not at the forefront of a dating experience. So yeah, you definitely wish you explored more. I'm not gonna say you would call it off, like, because everybody's got family. So good luck with that.
That's true.
I would also say moving and where you're going to live.
Yeah.
We have moved around a lot, and it was just go, So I think that would have been something to really discuss. Where do you want to live? Do you want to live by your family? You want to live by my family? Do you care if we live by family? Like, that may be something kind of throw out there. Especially if you have a very ambitious spouse, I would definitely talk that over.
Okay. Roman, is there anything that you wished you had discussed in your, I guess, while you guys were dating that ended up becoming an issue in marriage?
I guess like the geography a little bit, but it was more like how long do we plan to stay in the United States? Because we have like this retirement plan to kind of go and be somewhere else. But it would have been nice to kind of maybe realize that sooner rather than later, and just kind of plan for. I think the retirement thing, because Marjorie's an educator, so she'll be able to retire at 55, 56, so much earlier than typical. But I would have loved to have really stacked those chips like earlier, and maybe retire even earlier and just enjoy our lives, like even more so, So, but you're not thinking about those things, like Jabari was saying, just not at all. So I was just grateful. I was just happy. I was pursuant, you know what I mean? And I was just into every aspect of what Marjorie had to offer. You know what I mean? Great conversation, great personality, and all that. So I never really thought about it. Nothing's really like a challenge if you're willing to work at it, So I didn't really see it as a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the courting phase is very mesmerizing. You're kind of in a bubble, and you're just not really. You haven't developed that frontal lobe, to really think another layer deep about, how certain aspects are going to impact you as a married couple moving forward. So yeah, that's just my take.
So, What advice would you guys give to an individual? We have, again, we got V-Star here who's single. I'm single, and there's a lot of single people who are watching and texting me as we're speaking. What meaningful advice would you give to somebody seeking a relationship, like a real relationship, like not just a fling, but something that's long term, whether it results in marriage or just a long term partnership?
The first thing I start off is with friendship. Can they be your homie? Can y'all just really enjoy one another? One of the things that we have experienced with a lot of friends, heck, even in the first part of our marriage, is trying to change one another. I don't like this about you. I don't like this. I don't like this. And when you're friends, you like those things. We can go do them together. We're going to tailgate together, and we're going to snowboarding, and we're doing all of these things. Like, what is your recreational companionship? And so what are those things that you have in common that you really enjoy? Because I think the friendship in those moments where you don't like your partner, when you love them but you're not in love with them, I think the friendship carries you a little bit further to the next day, and to the next day, and to the next day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
100% about the friendship, because Marjorie and I met on campus, but also we were at the same church, and so we, honored every aspect of, waiting until getting married and all that. So it's like we had a good friendship for a few years before we tied the knot. So it was just day in and day out of just enjoying each other's company, learning how to having great conversation, having fun, finding little jokes and things. So I agree with that.
Yeah, if I can piggyback here, this is the you, Vlad. Sometimes I think you have friends that are very close to you, right? You may have a friend that is of the opposite sex that's very close to you, but oftentimes you're overlooking that person, and that person is probably the better candidate to be your spouse than the girl that you meet in the club. You got you really tight with. You know what I'm saying? And it's there, and you got to figure out how to get out of that friend zone. But that's who you want to build with, not a random stranger.
The friend zone person. So the people that we've been friend zoning might actually be our future. How do you feel about that, Vlad? Are they?
That's a big laugh. It's a big laugh.
Being single in these
Oh man, that's yeah. If the laughter didn't give some of it away already, I think that's very insightful what you both of you, Jabari, Stephanie, and Roman shared. It was one of the takeaways for me from the previous relationship I had that was the engaged when I was engaged, was the importance of friendship. Somebody who outside of the romance really is your homie, is really your partner, and also has your back. Because there are certain things that friends won't do to one another, no matter how upset they are with each other. But people with romantic partners can easily get to that point where friends can't. So I think that's very, very important. I one of my takeaways for sure. To the point of some of the people we're friend zoned. I'll be honest, and Rita, as she shared before, we're friends, and so she has a little bit of insight to some of this. Where I think it's a little bit of both. Where there are folks that.
This is hilarious.
It's voting season. Okay, I'll sum it up and say this. I have been of the mindset, I want to say more lately, when I'm realizing that you guys are 100% correct, that some of these people that are the opposite sex that I'm friends with, are some of the people who know me best and understand me best. And man, maybe those are the relationships that I should be looking to foster into romantic. So I agree.
And I
It's
think
funny
that
though.
that piece that they know you best and they still love you. They're still,
Right.
like
That
that's
is
the
true.
piece. Like when they still love you and all of your
In
courts,
spite
all
of.
of the in spite of, that's love.
Right.
That's that unconditional love.
Mhm.
We have some comments here saying that they're in a friend zone for a reason. And I have to agree with that statement because I am someone who I think I was dubbed like Kerber of the year. Like I'm just I'm good at friend zoning people. It's almost, I think I might have a PhD in it. Like I have to acknowledge these things. So I totally understand that concept, but I guess for me, I think that I'm gonna need that friend to like tell me, listen, you're bugging out. Like, who's a guy that can really say? Because you have your female friends, and they're gonna have their perspectives, obviously. But it's nothing like having a male friend to just be like, don't do that, don't do this. You know what? Men don't like this. Like, so I kind of have it like a Coach Carter or something. I guess is how I kind of feel with some of my guy friends. So I understand why that would be ideal because that person does know you in and out. But I also understand the other hand, as our people are commenting, friends are friends for a reason, where that comes from. We have a comment here. And we're going to just take one more comment so that we can wrap it up because I know that it is getting late. I've met a lot of women who do not know how to be friends. They default to girlfriends almost exclusively. They do not let a genuine friendship develop. And I do want to ask your all of your thoughts on that, and then we can end for the night. But I find that I don't know if it's our upbringing, but women, in a sense, kind of have this thing where we don't want to be like it's like there's a friendship and then there's girlfriend, boyfriend relationship, right? And that I guess if you start on this path of friendship, in a sense, I don't know if it just won't develop or they don't trust it to develop into a real relationship. Like I understand where this comment's coming from. I might not be articulating it well, but there seems to be this aversion to wanting to be friends first. Like if I'm with you and there's a romantic energy, then we need to explore the romantic energy as opposed to let's explore a friendship that could then become romantic. So I'm curious to see what your thoughts are and maybe in your courtship of each other, how that played out.
Yeah, it's
For me,
definitely.
why can't it be both?
Yeah.
Definitely hard.
No, I was just about to say, man, Steph had me in the friend zone for like 2 years.
I do remember that in our conversation. Yes.
So I shot my shot a couple of times.
And she shot you down.
And then she finally realized, hey man, this black chocolate guy is pretty sexy. And she came on this side of the fence. Now we together doing what we've been doing for 13 years. That's my side.
Right. Stephanie, what's your side?
Go back down that road again. We don't have enough time, but I do say to the friend there, I agree with Vladimir. Like you can have both. I think it's appropriate for both. If I come into a situation and I am just all out and attracted to you, you're all out attracted to me. Boom, there we got it. That's the romantic piece. I think specifically the other part of that friendship though is Jabari and I started off freshman year of college just friends. Like we just met, just walking to class, like literally just friends. And that was okay too. He noticed that he was attracted to me. So he kept trying and trying and trying. And it was like, okay, so it evolved into this romantic ship type thing. But I think that's okay too. Once again, scrap the expectations. Whatever happens for you in your relationships, let that be your story. Stop reading everybody else's story and wanting it to be mapped out just like theirs. What's happening right then and there for you?
Roman, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, we were in the friend zone for 2 years, but it was a closed friend zone. Like, we didn't set it to be 2 years, but nothing serious until you put a ring on it, you know. So it's like you made a promise, you know. I'm pursuing this person. I really enjoy this person's company, and being a friend is, you know, sometimes it comes naturally, but sometimes it's a little bit of work, and you can't just be impulsive on you know, the things that you're feeling in the moment. The attraction and all that should be there, but you use that to fuel the friendship a little bit. You know, you kind of have to play it and kind of, you know, not a malicious game, but just kind of like an honest game. But you have to control yourself, and that's what, you know, I remember thinking, like, you just have to control yourself and work on the friendship. Eventually, it will come, and you know, you just follow those you know, those signs a little bit, you know.
So in other words, I gotta be ready to be in the friend zone for 2 years. Woo!
I think 2 years is the theme here. 2 years is the theme. Oh man. So I mean, we're getting a lot of comments saying Jabari and Roman for the win. They got out the friend zone. Oh man. So guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. I feel like we can go on and on forever, but you know, we all have things going on. But I think that just the bit that we were able to get through today, I mean, just by looking at the comments, I think people definitely enjoyed it. And we dropped a lot of gems. I mean, there are a couple of highlights from tonight's conversation. You know, Angela was a wealth of information. Jabari and Stephanie, you guys gave us hope when it came to this submission talk. I'm like, wow, you guys
competition
submit to each
and
other?
submission.
Like, what is that? What is that? You guys need to write a book. And, you know, Vlad, just being vulnerable as a single male as to, you know, what's going on in these streets in 2020 dating life, I think was just very insightful. And so I definitely would love to get, you know, us back together again. There were a lot of questions that we didn't get to ask. I know Roman and Marjorie, there were so many questions that were directed toward just the interracial relationship. We did touch on it a little bit, and I think that that was great, but we definitely want to expand a little more. But thank you so much, guys, for being part of this. And thank you to all of our viewers for, you know, for tuning in to this really important conversation about love and relationships. Black love, does it matter? Does it not matter? Especially in a climate like this where race relations are high, and you know, people just kind of want to figure out, like, you know, what is Blackness in a time like this, and especially with the different aspects of life, where does that fall in? And I think the biggest one of all, which everybody was in agreement, is that, you know, Black love is more so about just promoting this idea and really pushing forth a positive narrative. It's not saying that it's not two Black couples that it's not Black love. It's just the appreciation of love, you know? So I think that that was really important. And so I don't want to keep everyone longer. I know everybody has the kiddies to take care of. I know my son has been texting me, when are you coming home? So thank you so much, everyone, for just being a part of this. And thank you guys again. Please, please, please remember to follow Black Ivy Media on Instagram, on Facebook. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where you will find this discussion. If you missed it tonight, or if you know somebody that would appreciate this conversation, send it to them. And head over to our website to check that out as well, too, at www.blackivymedia.com. And with that being said, everyone, have a good night.
Good night.